Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Today's podcast is sponsored by SLI Systems, providers of intelligent site search and navigation solutions. Learn more at sli-systems.com and listen to their interviews at ecommercepodcast.com. Welcome to the E-Commerce Conversation with Pat Callahan, a weekly podcast focusing on e-commerce topics, featuring interviews with prominent people in the e-commerce space. And now let's move right on over to Pat to see who he has queued up for this week's interview.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations. I'm Pat Callahan, and today I am joined by Debbie Levitt, CEO of Was.com. Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Pat. Hey.
How are you?
I'm great today. How about you?
I'm doing well, all in all.
Okay. Is that what this session will end up being about?
You never know. Debbie does a lot of different things, but one of the reasons I was very interested in having Debbie on is because of her eBay expertise. But, Debbie, why don't we start out with your site? Why don't you tell me a little bit about what AsWas.com is all about?
Sure. AsWas.com is the website for my company, which is just called AsWas. I started it in 1995 as kind of a website design and development firm, which was ahead of the curve at the time.
Yeah.
We later went into, there's a whole story there. We later went into custom building e-commerce websites back when those didn't really come in a box. And then eventually around early 2001, we decided that the best place for us was really to be using all of our expertise and consulting and knowledge on working with eBay sellers. We decided we didn't want to compete with somebody's uncle's manicurist, dog walker's mailman who had a copy of Front Page, and figured finding a better niche for ourselves would certainly be a better business model. So I'd already been buying and selling on eBay since 1998 and decided to start helping some of our web clients with it. And the very first one we helped turned out to be probably a very famous eBay seller selling digital cameras, and within their first year of ever selling on eBay, went from $0 to over $1 million a month. And I said, hey, I think we've got something going here.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was amazing. So pretty much since early 2001, AsWas has been specializing in design, marketing, business, strategy, and other consulting services for new and existing eBay sellers.
Very interesting.
And a mouthful.
But that's a good thing on a podcast.
Okay.
Let's talk about your conference.
Sure.
The 2008 AsWas conference. Debbie and I talked briefly before this conversation, of course, and one thing I want you to share is why the purpose behind this conference, because you and I talked a little bit about this, and it certainly wasn't something that I was generally aware of, is that eBay doesn't have a lot of conferences.
Yeah, that's completely true. eBay right now holds one conference a year called eBay Live, and it runs mid-June, and they keep moving it around the country. So 2008 is going to be in Chicago, and of course not every seller can make it. They usually end up with about 10,000 people, which if you think about the numbers is pretty small when eBay says that there are roughly 1 million people making a full-time or part-time living as eBay sellers. So it ends up attracting a pretty small percentage of people, but they come out to a great event. I can't fault eBay at all for their event. It's a great event, packed with education, packed with a huge trade show floor with both third-party vendors and eBay departments on the floor to help people. So it's a great event, but it's kind of the only one on the planet, because the other conferences that I found, at least that have something to do with eBay, tend to not really be focused on eBay. They're focused on the multi-channel sales message, which is fine by me, and I support that, but there are plenty of conferences giving the multi-channel sales message, and a lot of people just over the last year or two came up to me and said, where can I go other than eBay Live, where I'm going to learn techniques, products, services, companies, strategies, something that I can go home and act on immediately that's going to grow my eBay business. So we've decided that we're going to take like an 80% eBay, 20% off eBay focus, because we know that that's something that interests a lot of people. Certainly the existing eBay sellers, they always want to know how can they compete better, how can they pass the other guy, what can they be doing now? There are plenty of things that people can do. Don't wait for eBay to do something. There's so many things that sellers can be doing now that can be growing and expanding and changing their own businesses.
Okay, let's talk about what's going to be going on at the ASWAS conference specifically.
Sure.
What people can expect.
We should tell them when it is. It's going to be down in Disney World, Florida at the Yacht Club Resort, which is a beautiful deluxe Disney World resort that they've given us at pretty much half the price for that time of year. So I'm very excited about that. It's February 28th, 29, it's a leap year, and March 1st. Yeah, please, everyone remember that's 2.5 days for our conference because we have the leap year day in there. And basically we are just packing it to the gills with informational sessions from industry experts. We have eBay staff coming. We have people on my team giving presentations. We have people from other companies around the eBay arena. You've got Channel Advisor, JDT Technologies, Kyozu. We have a lot of people talking about shipping. We've got product sourcing. Basically, I wanted to split the idea. An eBay and online business has about 7 different components to it, and we wanted to break those out and make sure that we were offering sessions that covered all of these. So for 2.5 days, we're going to be having constant presentations on branding, marketing, research, strategy, staffing, sourcing, business and accounting software, payments, everything you could think of that has to do with the business to really take a holistic approach. We didn't want to just look at one thing and say, oh, software, you need software, thanks for coming by. And we also wanted to make sure that all of our presentations went really into detail. One thing that I'm not the biggest fan of at eBay Live is that some of the presentations tend to be very general because it's such a broad audience, you don't really know who's in the audience. We're really targeting those power sellers and the up-and-coming power sellers, and we want to make sure that the people who are speaking are giving in-depth demonstrations. Rather than a general, it's good to do eBay research kind of talk, I want people to say, it's good to do eBay research, and here's how to use our tool, dig down deep, so that you can get things done. And then people will go home and say, wow, I was really impressed with that tool. I feel like I know how to use it. I'm going to jump right on that and change my business. So I really wanted to make sure that the sessions gave people information that they could walk away and start using immediately, because I recently attended a conference that I felt was so, may I say, fluffy. And I felt like I ended up coming up and trying to do my own Myers-Briggs table of conference sessions, and I started calling it theoretical wanky, because I felt like so many sessions at this particular conference were like, what will the future be? And I figured, what are people going to go home and do with so many sessions being like, what will the future be? We're all living in the moment. We all have to run our businesses now. I don't want to get into what could e-commerce be 3-5 years from now, but who knows? But I think that it's best to be looking at what can we all do right now to make eBay businesses better, stronger, and, of course, expand them off eBay as well.
I like it.
I do, too.
I like it. The best way to register is online?
Sure. Basically, for more information, people can go to www.aswasconference.com, and we have all the information up there. We have the agenda. We have all the information about what they're going to get, and we're going to have business clinics there where a panel of experts are going to look at your eBay business and give you advice live right there for free. There's all kinds of things that are going to be going on, so it's best to read the website and find out what we're up to. And then, of course, there's buttons all over the website that will take people to registration.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about eBay. Let me ask you this, Debbie. I'm always curious about this. I applaud the people that have figured out how to do this. I'm always interested in how realistic is it to consider eBay as a career, selling on eBay?
I think that eBay is still extremely viable for both part-time and full-time livings, but I think it comes down to making the right decision. We get calls all the time from people with all different ideas and all different business models, and to me, I would say only about 2/3 of the people who call me really have a good idea. Of the third of people who I would say don't have the best idea are usually people who say, I just saw an infomercial, and you have to tell me what I need to sell on eBay so I can quit my second job. or they've been swept up by something, or my grandson said I should be selling my homemade jewelry on eBay. And sometimes they're just ideas that aren't very strong because eBay is just a particular marketplace. In fact, somebody was messaging me earlier today trying to say he wanted to sell stock video that he had shot himself. And I know there's a market for stock video. I just don't know if the market for stock video is on eBay. If I need a stock footage of a certain landscape, I'm probably more likely to go to Getty or Quartus or one of these well-known stock websites to see if they have it than to troll eBay for it. And so sometimes my concerns are that people may not have ideas that work on eBay. They may have ideas that work somewhere else, but it's not really something eBay can necessarily control or manage. It's really about people coming up with ideas where they're ready to put in the time and effort, and they're ready to learn whatever's in their learning curve, and they have good products at a good price, and they've done their eBay-related research to make sure of the market that's on eBay. So that, I think, is something people need to do more of that maybe they don't. A lot of people who call me have not done any research. They just think they're going to use a drop shipper, never see the products, never have to ship anything, and boy, isn't that going to be great. And I said, yeah, you and 2 million other people.
Yeah.
So how the heck is that going to pan out? So I think that eBay is still very viable, but only for certain types of business models and, in a sense, certain personalities of people.
What would you suggest for people who do need to do eBay research?
There are 2 tools out there that we think are great. There's TerraPeak, which is T like Thomas, E-R-A, and then peak like the peak of a mountain. And then there's HammerTap, that's spelled the way it sounds. And they both deal with eBay marketplace data, which means they're both getting real eBay database information, usually delayed by about 2 or 3 days, but real eBay database information that they are crunching. So you can say, let's say I decide I'm going to sell plastic water bottles for hairdressers. I could go to eBay, I could go to TerraPeak or HammerTap. I could type in some of the keywords relating to that product or product line, and it will give me back a report. So say I do a 90-day report for something like that on TerraPeak, it might tell me how many people are selling these, what kind of success they're having, as in what percentage of the time these are selling and what percentage of the time the item ends on eBay with no sale, and what the average selling price is. That will start to give me a more realistic picture of supply, demand, and pricing. And then it's in my court to make a good decision about whether or not this is a market with room for me and a market where I can make money.
Let's talk about some people who've been at it for a while on eBay.
Okay.
And they're finding things are starting to slow down a little bit, maybe because of competition or another reason. What advice would you have for those people?
The advice that I tend to have for those people is change, because many of the really big veteran power sellers that I tend to meet, not all of them, so I don't want anyone listening to get so angry that they turn their treadmill way up. But I like to joke podcasts are for working out. But my feeling is that I would like to see some of these people be more open to change. Sometimes when I've spoken to some of these people and I've started making suggestions to them like, have you thought about doing this with your strategy? Have you thought about changing your listing so that it's like this? Have you thought about this? A lot of times I've received almost an emotional response rather than a business response like, hey, I got here with it the way it is. I'm this big seller with it the way it is. Why are you telling me to change it? And my feeling is, well, hey, everything around you is changing and evolving. Your competitors are hiring my company. New people are coming onto the playing field. You may not even know who you're buying your stuff from. It's important to keep doing research and keep analyzing things and change, just the way you would if you were a pizza place and someone opened up a pizza place around the corner. You're going to have to change. You can't just keep doing things the same way and assume that the way that you did it the last year or 3 years or 40 years is going to continue to carry you through. So my feeling on some of the power sellers who are seeing a slowdown, sure, some of that's going to be the economy, and my feeling is that some of the other things that it is are things that they can take some control of. Okay, we can't control how much competition you have, but we can control if you're doing things that make you better than the competition. So my feeling is don't be so emotional about some of this stuff, and please be open to change, because there are companies and software tools and services that can help. Our average client increases their eBay sales over 13% within a month or so of working with us. And that's not just little guys selling body jewelry. We work with people who sell land. We work with people who sell clothing. We work with people who have feedback in the tens of thousands. We're working with people at all areas, and we feel that there's always room for change. There's always a way to be better. Don't get stuck in the way you've been approaching something.
I think that's great advice. People are certainly sometimes averse to change for whatever reason, but the things online change in a hurry, and if you don't change with them, I think you have a tendency to be left behind.
Yeah, I think that people just get a little stuck or complacent, or sometimes they just grow so fast that they don't have the staff, and they say, well, I don't have the time to look at that. And I say, well, make the time, because what's going to happen if you're not growing, or you're not growing the way you could, or you're keeping yourself from growth? So my big concern is sometimes people who just blame eBay. And my feeling is, 99% of the time, if not more, I don't think eBay is killing people's sales, because that's not in eBay's best interest. It's not in eBay's best interest to decrease anybody's sales or to hurt any seller's or buyer's experience. And so when people are just blaming eBay and angry at eBay, okay, today I was angry at the cable company, but okay, now I need to move on. I need to conduct my business. I need to continue using the cable company, and I need to move on. And so let me find the best ways that I can use the cable company and work with the cable company, because being a stormy, angry rain cloud about the cable company is not going to improve my life and business or my outlook or my energy. And my feeling is what goes around comes around, and the grumpier people are, the more they're going to be walking around under that stormy rain cloud.
Debbie, let's have you on again.
Thank you.
Yeah, after the conference. I enjoyed the conversation, and I certainly learned a lot about eBay, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, and I say to the listeners, slow down on the treadmill and catch my monthly column.
Yes, for sure. Look for Debbie's monthly column at practicalecommerce.com, and we will talk again soon, Debbie.
Thank you, Pat.
That's all the time we have for this week's e-commerce conversation with Pat Callahan. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week for another new episode to find out who Pat will be speaking with.